Welcome to the Beyond Atheism podcast, with me, Nathan Alexander, and my co-host, Todd Tavares. This podcast moves beyond questions of God's existence to ask, what's next in a godless world? Beyond Atheism is produced and distributed by Atheists United Studios.
Joseph Lyttleton is an American writer and editor based in Madrid, Spain. He's the creator of the 10 Cities, 10 Years Project, and has published 2 novels, Yahweh's Children, and most recently, The Awakening. The Awakening drops us in a world where all sense of faith in God or gods spontaneously disappears one night, and humanity has to reckon with the loss. Joseph, welcome to Beyond Atheism.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's great to have you.
Yeah, thanks, Joseph. We're looking forward to talking with you. We enjoyed the book. So kind of as a way to get into it, maybe you can tell us, in a way to kind of rope in some of your your biography, like how did you decide to write this book? And, tell us a little bit more about the book itself.
Well, my personal story is going to sound familiar to a lot of your listeners. I grew up in a evangelical church. Up until I was 20, I was so involved in the church. I spoke in tongues. I gave words of prophecy, prayed for healing for people, all of that. And then before college, but the process started before college, but yeah, in college, I lost the faith, and I was really trying to hold on to it. Even after I realized I didn't believe anymore, I fasted for a week in the hopes that God would show himself to me and talk to me. And I kept going to church even when I didn't believe anymore. And even after I realized I didn't believe anymore, I joined a new church just to see if maybe that was the problem. Maybe it was the wrong church. And, so I really wanted to believe. And I just couldn't. I don't think it was until after college that I started actually calling myself an atheist, but I was an atheist. And despite me trying to hold on to my faith as much as possible. So yeah, the book, I don't know that I consciously had this thought when the idea first came to me, but the book is kind of that idea of what it's like to lose your faith, not because you've reckoned with it and you've thought and you've debated it and you decided it's not true, but that you just can't have faith anymore. Like it just isn't there, no matter how much you want it to be there. So I took, my own personal experience of that and blew that up to the whole world. This idea that in a moment, suddenly nobody can believe anymore, no matter what they believe, no matter what kind of God it was, any version of God, suddenly it's turned off. There's a mechanism that just turned off in our heads. So yeah, that was the basis of the story idea.
Right. And that's a fun idea. And one of the things that struck me about it, especially from I think this is something that is universal with atheists. It happens to a lot of people we talk about. It's like everyone becomes an atheist alone. It's one of the loneliest experiences. You don't have this sense of community with it. So the idea of losing faith and being kind of in isolation, which I think some of your characters go through, that part makes sense. But this is something where, because it's so general, it becomes a communal experience. This idea of loss of faith as a communal experience and what it does to people and how it goes from this very individualized aspect, which is the common experience, to something social. Tell us how you depict it in the book, but also how you sort of extrapolated that, how you took it from this individual experience and how you imagined it affecting us socially.
Well, I kind of just thought about what would it be like for all the different people that I grew up with who have faith, to lose their faith. What would that mean? Like for me, it was very freeing when I lost my faith. Like it was something that, in the moment, like when it was happening, it was scary. I was worried about it. But after that, after I was allowed myself to accept that I no longer believed, it was a very freeing experience. But I think about, if it was my mother, who is still very religious, if it happened to her, if the faith was stolen from her, how would she react to it? And I think about, people I know who, I can't say this for sure or not, but people who I think their faith is more just a social construct and not really deeply ingrained in them. I think about how they'd react to having that faith taken away. And also, you read the book, there's a little little jabs at even atheists, of which I am in the book as well. Also, there's that idea also that like even some atheists, this is a thing that Christians or theists will often say is that atheists, you actually really do believe. You know, you're just denying it. And I obviously don't believe that's true, but I also do think there are some people out there in the world who have a faith, but they don't allow themselves to admit it or whatever. So I try to think about all of those different kinds of people and and so yeah, I just crafted characters around that what would it happen if this particular person lost their faith versus this particular person.
Yeah, and maybe just to make it more concrete, like tell us a little bit about the specific characters and kind of the general plot of your
Okay.
novel.
Yeah, of course. So the story is follows Quentin. It opens up on Quentin. His brother Carlos has gone missing. It's 6 months after this event, the awakening has happened. So now we're 6 months past this moment where everyone suddenly loses their faith, and the U.S. This whole story takes place in the United States, but there's some mentions of things that are going on globally. But I really wanted this to be kind of a story about faith in America. So yeah, so Quentin's brother Carlos has gone missing. Quentin lives in Philadelphia, where his mother is, where they grew up, and Carlos lives in Chicago. And suddenly, Carlos has just gone completely radio silent, and so his mother is scared, doesn't know what's happened to him, and wants Quentin to find him. Now, the background is after the awakening, millions of people have left their lives behind. Either because they feel free and they just don't want to they want to live that life anymore, or because they are absolutely devastated and they're fallen into debauchery or fallen into, drugs or something to numb the pain, or they've killed themselves. So it's a world where, the vast majority of the population is still just trying to go by their day-to-day lives, but there are millions of people that have gone missing. So in that situation, now Quentin is looking for his brother, one of the missing. And so he drives to Chicago to try to find him there. And there's a hint that Carlos may have gone to San Francisco. And so he continues on to San Francisco because it's either that or go back home and tell his mother, no luck, sorry. And the another important part is that their mother was very religious, so she is not handling this very well. So this is the only thing he can do for her is find her son. So he goes on and drives then to San Francisco from Chicago. And so the story there is a travel log in a sense, where there's a lot of these little stops through the United States, and yeah, we meet these characters and that sort of thing. The story continues beyond that. There's more. We do actually spend some time with Carlos and another character. So I don't want to get too much into those plots.
Yeah.
But well,
The
yeah,
the travelogue aspect adds such great color to it, and it really is like it's recognizable, and it also gets into stuff that are maybe kind of like, okay, like I know the Tabernacle in Salt Lake City. I've never been, but I can understand San Francisco and Houston and places like that. But there are also these smaller places, like I think it's Colorado City, which I didn't know about. And is that um that's a real place? So is that where they have like the big fences and there's still it's well,
it's
I'm still unsure where it is. New Mexico, Nevada? Where's
It's
Colorado City?
Arizona. It's right on the border of Arizona. So, like, technically, there are two different cities, and I'm gonna forget the name of it's something like Hilldale or it's something like that. I can look it up. But on the other side, the opposite side of the border from Nevada or something, yeah, there's another city, but they are connected. They're basically one city, but Colorado City is the bigger side of it, and it's a real town where basically polygamy is legal. It's where the fundamentalist Mormons are. And they call themselves fundamentalists. It's not like a pejorative. That's what they call themselves. They practice polygamy, and basically the government knows about it and has just said, "Hands off. We're not going to touch you guys. You can do it." And so there's been a few like standoffs and some things that have happened where government has come in there. But yeah, basically, it's known that polygamy happens there. and along with polygamy, incest and just child rape, like, yeah, young girls. And this is happening. We know it's happening. And, obviously, I mean, to a certain sense, some of them might deny it. And in another sense, they might just say, well, this is our right. This is our religion. We're allowed to do this. So yeah, there are other fundamentalist Mormon, Latter-day Saint strongholds, both in Canada and the US, but that's one of the big ones. And there's at least a couple of people that have come out of that environment, have written books and talked about their lives there and such. So yeah, it's yeah. I don't know if you've ever read John Krakauer's Under the Banner of Heaven. Some of the book deals good. It's a great book and highly recommend. But yeah, it's that book just kind of follows fundamentalist Mormons around the country, but they do spend a little bit of time in that city. So
Right. It was made into a mini series.
yeah, which I
And
haven't seen, but yeah, yeah,
it's a deeply, deeply atheistic work of art,
yeah, yeah,
which is both surprising and wonderful. But
yeah.
yeah, it's high on the recommended list. But I your treatment of LDS is really neat, because one of the things you mentioned about it is, like, it's a uniquely American phenomenon. It is probably like the American religion in the sense that it's from America. But you also compare it to Jonestown, which I think is very, very insightful. And they do have you kind of convinced me of it. They're both American inventions. They have charismatic leadership. They become itinerant. They're moving all about the country. Become kind of defensive. At one point, I think it was Smith, who was commander of an army that was larger than the U.S. federal army when he was in Illinois. And they drift towards polygamy, but one becomes a very strong, stable American church that really puts its roots in and develops itself. The other is just a crazy cult that went off and killed itself. I think in the book you mentioned this, you described it as like the fickleness of faith. Can you tell us a little bit more about this fickleness of faith and how it informs churches you depict in the novel and how you see it at work in the world at large?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't be the first person to say this, that religions are just cults that survived. And I think if you think about even Christianity, the version of Christianity that we have now is just a matter of which of the sects that came out early won out. The books that are in the Bible are in there because there was debates about it and one saw one or another. Like there's other gospels that exist. The gospel of Jesus, and there's ones that, don't even that suggest that Jesus wasn't God, but just a man, like great prophet. Like there's another universe where Christianity is where Jesus is more like a Muhammad kind of figure than God. So it's just a quirk of history and time and luck that certain religions survive. Now, obviously, the adherents would say, well, that's our religion survived because we're the one true religion and God is helping us. But if you put that aside, if Christianity is the one true religion, then how do you explain Islam? How do you explain Buddhism? How do you explain all these, or Latter-day Saints? How do you explain all those that are the false religions that still survive? It's just a matter of luck and timing, these little things that a choice that somebody made that could have changed things. I think, you know, Jonestown, Jim Jones is a fascinating character, fascinating story, and I include it in the book. I include discussion of it in the book because it, resonates with the themes of the book, of the novel. But I could have picked 1,000 other examples, and that one is interesting because of the don't drink the Kool-Aid and all that. It's permeated the culture. Which, for the record, it wasn't actually Kool-Aid they were drinking; it was another drink, but it just don't drink the Kool-Aid because it was a less well-known brand name. But yeah, it's a fascinating story and it's eye-catching and it makes for good, movies or whatever. But there's a million, yeah, there's all these cults that have existed. And why didn't why did one survive when they didn't? The thing about Joseph Smith was he was active at a time when there was all kinds of false prophets or whatever you want to call them, all people were doing stuff. He just happened to be better at it than everyone else would. I mean, probably some luck, but yeah. So he was a salesman. He was a con man, but he was a salesman. Those two ideas
Yeah.
are usually one and the same. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and he met the right people. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
He had the right Saul
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
Right.
That's
to
Yeah,
build
yeah, right.
the church
Yeah.
yeah.
afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brigham Young and everything kept it going. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess one kind of theme that it's explored in the novel is that even after this loss of faith, there's still people, need some kind of purpose or whatever. When I'm wondering, like, what are the kind of parts of religion that we need that are not like themselves kind of necessarily tied to belief in God? So things like a sense of community. I mean, I think that's what, the characters are kind of finding in their travels, like trying to figure out like, what sort of aspects of religion can survive this awakening, I guess.
Yeah. I would say the community is a big thing. And as you talked about, or Todd, as you talked about earlier, that atheist becoming atheist is a lonely experience often. It's not just that it's this thing that you go through alone. It's that often you're giving up your community. You're actively losing it. You're actively either being shunned from it or just abandoning it. And I don't think, as much as there are atheist groups and atheist chat rooms and all this stuff, atheism, the atheist movement, whatever you want to call it, the new atheists or whatever, they never really found a good way to create community. Which is not to say that there aren't. There are good communal things, like small pockets of them in towns and places and such. But it really just doesn't replace what the church does. The church in a city offers you family, it offers you friends, it offers you education, and offers you a thing to do on a Saturday night. It offers all of this that is a really hard thing to give up. And yeah, I felt it when I left the church. I felt both that I was abandoning the church and also that I was kind of being pushed out a little bit once it was clear that I didn't believe anymore. In the sense of like, I mean, I'd already left the church, but in the sense of like, there were just people that we just stopped talking to each other, that we've been best friends or really close friends. Just like, and it wasn't like we had a fight and suddenly it was just suddenly, it was just clear we didn't have common ground to continue a relationship with. And so we shifted away. And I was lucky that it happened while I was in college. So I made a new group of friends and that really helped. I had a best friend, Shelly, that she was an atheist and she kind of helped me figure things out. And um, so I had things. I was lucky in that sense. And, I was at a university, so there was already the odds of there being non-believers was higher than if I been in a small town in the middle. But yeah, so that's community is massive. That's a big part of what I think religion provides that is good that non-belief generally doesn't have. That
Right.
there are exceptions, but yeah. So
Yeah. And that the way I mean, that framing of it, I mean, it's tragic when, like, your loss of faith causes other people who have faith to exclude you. That's a really dark side of this, like, in-group, out-group dynamic, where it's really great that you can build something that allows people to come together and create some form of community and solidarity, but it's terrible that it creates this wall between people and excludes them, and pushes them out just for not having faith. But there is like that other type of person you talk about without getting into spoilers, but I this is a rich vein. Those who don't have faith that are unbelievers, but act as if they are, like that are intentionally deceitful. And we see like the advantage of this, right? It's you get that community even without having the faith and the belief. But often these are powerful people who are in positions to dictate the terms of the faith. And you have a pastor who does that, and there are consequences for him. Could you tell us about like that character sort of up to the awakening, these sort of like false prophets, or is that too strong a word to
no, I like the term
describe them?
false prophets. I mean, I would argue that all prophets are false prophets, but
Yes,
I
Right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
but they don't all believe. They don't all
yes,
Some
Yeah, that's
believe
the
in themselves,
distinction.
right?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Some are, yeah, deceiving themselves, and some are intentionally deceiving others. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, yeah. Without getting too spoilery, yeah, I make a reference that it's a the character that I'm talking about is a amalgamation of multiple characters, but really just this like there's a specific person I had in mind when I was writing about them. But I see a lot of atheists or agnostics or whoever will say things like, "Oh, no Christians really believe that." They're all lying. They're all. I don't believe that at all. I know Christians who are genuinely believers. I was genuinely a believer. It was deep in me. So I absolutely you can believe it. And now I couldn't make myself believe to save my life. It's just I just couldn't turn it back on. But there are people out there who genuinely would believe. And you know, that's one thing that's fine, but there are people out there who are lying, who are faking it, who have seen that it gives them power, it gets them money, it gets them influence, it gets them women, it gets them like whatever it is. I would say most cult leaders out there start out doing it for the power and the money and the women or whatever. Um, and then some of them start to believe their own lies and they start to turn themselves into gods in their own head. But I would say most cults probably start that way. And but it's clear in religion. You can see, I mean, it's a biblical concept. It's a biblical idea that people will see by your works your faith. But you can see these pastors who don't actually do works, that don't actually help people, who just get up there and raise themselves up. You can see those people don't believe. There's no faith in there. If you accept this biblical concept, if you're a Christian and you believe that, you should be able to look at some of those pastors out there and say that person is not living with any sort of faith, with any sort of decency. And just because they have an audience and they have the stage, they zap up power. People listen to it. And it's the other problem of just humanity is that we are naturally drawn to people who exude confidence and power. And so
Mm.
it's the Trump phenomenon. I mean, it doesn't have to be just right wingers. There are left wing people
Yeah.
that way as well. But yeah, so
Yeah. No, it's interesting that in your novel, I mean, there's some various different cases of people who are really angry when they lose their faith, and then they're angry at, I mean, it makes sense like that these people have just been deceiving them and using them, and they're really really angry about it, and it takes different forms. Yeah, I don't know what my question was, but just just a comment.
yeah, I
Anger and
mean, yeah,
debauchery, though, that's it.
anger. Yeah, anger is a common theme in the book,
Yeah.
because I think, well, I know for me, when I came out of the faith, I went through different phases, and I was angry at certain things, and I still get angry about certain things. I think that's a natural reaction, not only to being like in my case, being raised in a purely Christian world. I went to a Christian school, little private Christian school that was basically just a large homeschool. I was in church I went Sunday morning, Sunday night. I went to youth group on Wednesday. I was part of the youth. We had a youth leadership council. I was part of that. Wrote skits and plays for every single week for the youth group. We did these things called human videos, which anyone that grew up in the evangelical church will know what that is. Just like little skits with music. Um, and then I was doing other things. My mother went to a different church than she left the church I grew up in and started going to an even more extreme evangelical church, led by Mike Bickle, which again, some of your audience will know. He's a self-proclaimed end times prophet. And his church used to be part of the Vineyard, group, and they actually kind of got kicked out of that. I mean, he's so out there, but he's been prophesying that it's the end times forever. And they started the International House of Prayer, the IHOP, the Christian IHOP. So then to come out of that and realize like how much time I wasted, how much energy was wasted, how much of my intellect was wasted. I read the Bible multiple times as a kid, but I didn't learn anything about biology. I knew nothing about evolution. until I like started to like teach it to myself. I was angry about just the waste of bandwidth that I could know so much more. Instead, I've got all this Bible knowledge in my head. It drives me nuts. I think anger is a natural reaction to losing your faith. So that's yeah, that is a why it's part of the book. But I also think you can get past the anger and you can move and find I don't it's not to say that anger is unhealthy, but it can certainly be unhealthy if it's all that's in you. So yeah.
Right. Well, you do show like a lot of there are different outlets depicted throughout. I mean, there is a general malaise that the sort of society is going through that kind of hangs over the travel log. Everywhere they go, it's kind of bumming. But there's the really angry people. There are the despondent people who are totally lost for good reason. And then there's another seems to be, well, the people who it has no impact on. And then there's this debauchery angle. Was that one that that you went through as well? 'Cause, honestly, this is one that I hear quite a lot, and I don't know if people actually believe it. Like you're saying about how, like, you're an atheist, but you really believe in something, blah, blah, blah. The idea like, "Oh, without God, people would just do anything they wanted. They just rape and murder and steal." And it's like, I don't know if that would actually happen. But did you have you is that something that you've witnessed or been through where it's like, "You know what? This was denied me. I should be able to try it. Let's do this thing."
Yeah, I've definitely seen I have known people that have left the faith that have really gone down a dark path into that kind of a debauched life, um, and hurt themselves because of it, gotten themselves addicted and that sort of thing. For myself, I definitely, there were things I didn't do as a believer that I didn't drink at all. I didn't drink even even when I was no longer a believer. It's still in college. I didn't drink through college other than occasionally with like my brothers when they had a birthday or something. I just didn't drink. And then once I graduated college and moved away from my hometown, I started to drink and I did that kind of classic just drink myself to puke in and doing what most
Yeah.
college
Right.
students do, but I
Yeah.
did
Yes.
it 4 years
Right.
later. So yeah,
Yeah.
a little bit of that and just but I never was one, not really for drugs, smoked a little weed here and there, but never really liked it, so just didn't keep it up. Smoked cigarettes. I tried, I had relationships, I had sex, but like I didn't just go crazy with it. I still felt it was important to respect the other person. That is not to me, that is a foundational part of my personal belief is that we should still respect other people and treat them and not just use them. So, yeah, I personally didn't go into the debauchery angle very much, a little bit, but not really, but I have seen it, and I do think there are when Christians say things like, "If I didn't have belief in God, whatever, or people didn't have belief in God, we would just rape and kill and do stuff." I
Mhm.
think they're telling on themselves a little bit.
Mm.
They're
Yeah. Yeah.
they're admitting that they need that belief to not be an asshole, but I didn't need it, and I think there's lots of people who so, yeah,
Mm.
there are
Mhm.
people who exist who need it, but it's not
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah. One kind of theme too, I guess, in the novel is there's some seems like attempts to kind of form like non-theistic communities or even I don't know, cult is the right word, but I guess there's sort of like this is seems to be the one direction that people are in the novel, various groups are trying to create something like religion, but without a theistic angle. And do you see, I mean, like, kind of extrapolating after your novel ends, like beyond those years, like, do you sort of think that's what would happen in that society, that there would be these kind of non-theistic, communities that form up in a way?
Absolutely, I think we are already seeing that. I mean, there's something like the last time that Pew Research did a study, like 23, 24, it was something like almost 30% of America now identifies as a non and unaffiliated. So, and with that number, there are non-theistic churches rising up. There are these things going up, and I think that's good. I don't think because of my experience growing up in the church and how involved, I don't think I would ever go to something like that because I think it feel too much like a flashback or something to something I don't
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
do. But I think that is good. I think those sorts of things should exist. I don't know what you would do at a non-theistic
Right,
church.
right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yep.
But for some people, it probably is just like, let's just sing some songs together and have a conversation, and that very much could be it, and I think that's great. If that is and it works and it creates that community that's missing, then I think that's a wonderful thing that should. And I do think if my novel was a real world event, or yeah, if we continue the story of my novel beyond the end of it, yeah, I think we would see a lot more of these sorts of, you know, faithless churches and organizations grow. Yeah.
Well, the name of this show is Beyond Atheism, and I think this has been one of the sort of like fundamental questions that we've been driven by is like,
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
next? Because the idea of atheism to us is kind of boring on its own. It really is this sort of like post-awakening question. But like when you think about these, or I mean, I think you do have some sort of idea of what they look like. There seems to be okay, maybe I'll just list things and you can say yes or no. Ideas of humanism still ring throughout, right? Sort of, I think we could say it is something like personal autonomy. People have the ability and the means to like act in their own self-interest in a way that furthers their being, helps them thrive. Like that, these seem to be evident in what you imagine a post-awakening organization
Yeah.
looking like.
Yeah, I mean, this is my bias that because it's my belief, but I think humanism is the most natural, most obvious replacement for faith. That philosophy of humanism. I think that is now already within humanism. There are. I'm not any kind of expert on it. I'm sure there are sects within humanism. It is in human nature to create groups and start breaking apart and start saying you're wrong and I'm right and stuff. And so I think, even it's not like I imagine us being a utopia. I don't see that. But I do think without faith, we would, by and large, just as a species, move towards this. It's just a humanistic view of the world. It just would have to kind of. But yeah, it's a theme in there. Um, but I also didn't want to in the book. I didn't want to suggest that there is like this is obviously right. Now that no one has faith, we obviously know this is correct. I didn't want to suggest that because I don't want to suggest that I think like there's basically just either you're a believer in God or you're a humanist because there's obviously lots of things in the middle and there's lots of different kinds of faiths, ways of having faith that aren't necessarily spiritual or God connected. So yeah, I don't know all the philosophies that exist, but I think humanism to me makes the most sense and would probably be the one that would spread the easiest. But there'd be other kinds of beliefs out there and such. No.
Yeah. I mean, there's a beautiful way that you describe it in the book where, you know, one character, a young woman, is dealing with the loss of faith and how it affects her relationship with her family, and it's incredibly disruptive. And then I think Carlos responds, "Well, look, like you haven't lost them. They're still there. They're still your family. And you're part of the biggest family, which is humanity. We're just the biggest family in the world." And that seems like, yeah, it does both of those things. It's very welcoming to this larger group that you're never going to be excluded from. And that the loss of faith doesn't destroy these smaller units like family. You're still allowed to have a family. You can still be a family and support your family and rely on a family. So we like this post-awakening world certainly seems feasible. There's just this one piece that the church isn't going to look like it does. There's also this one of the things you really point to though, which is overlooked, especially in like more left thinking and certainly in atheism broadly, is the role of leadership. Because there is in it, the post-awakening, it comes up a lot, right? There's a loss of direction. People still need to be in the novel. One things that comes up is these people don't know what to do. They don't know how to act for themselves. They need some guidance. I'm guessing this was something that you struggled with, and where do you see that leadership coming from in the future?
Well, do you mean that leadership in the book, or do you mean like in the real world? Where would we?
In probably more in the real world. The idea
Okay,
like, okay, is it necessary, and where should we look for it?
I think it's. I think we look around and we can see countless examples of the fact that most people want a leader, want direction, want somebody else to tell them how to do their life. Just look at, and even as religion goes in decline, just look at all the other things, the manospheres, the right wing leaders, left wing leadership as well, and the way that we deify, like, you know, I like Bernie Sanders a lot, but some of the fandom behind him is a little bit creepy to me. It reminds me of religion a little bit. I think not to any fault of his own, it's just human nature that I think, yeah, I think even without faith, people are gonna look. They're gonna look to people who want to lead. Because not every I mean, you'll see this in any business, you know, the books about how to be a good, manager or whatever. They'll always say things like some people are followers and some people are leaders. And if you're a leader, you'll blah 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 do this. As annoying as some of that self-help kind of stuff is, I think that's also just a fundamentally true thing about humanity. Some people are leaders, some people are followers. And also some people are none. I don't want have any desire to lead people. I don't want followers. I don't really even want fans, but I also just don't want to follow anyone. So I do think there are also people who don't fit either category. But yeah, I think if religion fell away tomorrow, faith died off tomorrow, pretty soon there'd just be other they'd be cult leaders with just a different sales tactic. They'd be the same
Mm,
people, but they'd just be selling something different. And we'd have cult
yeah.
followers just following in the same way. So yeah.
Mm, yeah. No, that is an interesting point. I think it's true. Yeah, like there's something we want to kind of place our hopes in a way in a certain I mean, like I'm just like yeah, like your example of Bernie Sanders or other kind of figures like that. We kind of, place our hopes in them and like, see them as kind of an ideal figure and so on. One other thing I wanted to ask kind of in a different direction is to talk about this other project that you did a while ago called 10 Cities in 10 Years. And I mean, obviously, I imagine it played into like, some of the circumstances of the novel and the characters are traveling around and visiting different cities and so on. Can you tell us a little bit about that project and kind of what you learned from it and how it shaped your views?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's so yeah, 10 Cities, 10 Years was something I started right after college. 2 weeks after I graduated, I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, and that was the first city. At the time when I moved to Charlotte, I wasn't thinking I was doing 10 Cities, 10 Years. I hadn't actually had that idea. But as the months passed and I realized I'd moved there with a girlfriend, we broke up. She went back to school. I stayed in Charlotte. And as I was there, I realized, like, I don't have a reason to be here. And, I grew up like, Lawrence, Kansas is in the book. That's one scene earlier. That's where I grew up. I put my hometown in the book because I grew up in this it's not super small, but it's a small town in Kansas. And I, of course, as being a writer and just being, from this small town, I always, you know, envisioned living in New York City. Oh, that was my mecca. That was where I wanted to go. And I still wanted to do that once I was done with college, but I kind of realized that if I moved to New York right away, one of two things would happen. I would flame out and like feel like I had to go back to Kansas because I couldn't make it, or I would love it and stay there and I would never see anywhere else. I would just become people. So 10 cities, 10 years was kind of a way of forcing me to go to see more of the country, to learn more. um, so I made New York. I always knew New York was going to be year 10. And then as the years progressed, I just picked cities randomly. Year 2 was Philadelphia. And I'd never been there before. And that was scary. I just moved there completely on my own and no idea what I was doing. And then year 3 was Costa Mesa, California, which is Orange County. That's the only like non like city that that I did in the project, but I moved there because I had a friend and she had an extra room, and I was like, well, cool, I'll just live with her. That makes that easy. But then after that, and it's interesting. The one thing, Costa Mesa is, it's not a place I'd live again or ever, but it's an interesting. It matters a lot actually in modern history. Like it's a county. I think that Reagan visited when he was, it was a big part of his campaign. It's where the Trinity Broadcasting Network, the Christian TV station, it's based there. Their base is there, and it looks like it's the most palatial TV studio you ever see. It's so gaudy and gaudy, Gaudy, dy, but it's ridiculous. So yeah, it's an interesting place for that reason, but it's not a place I would ever go back to live again. So, anyways, after Costa Mesa, I went to San Francisco, then Chicago, then Nashville, Seattle, New Orleans, Boston, and New York. And I spent exactly a year in each one. Just get there September 1st, leave, and then move to the next city September 1st. So yeah, and so yeah, as you can tell, a lot of the cities that are in the book are the cities I lived in, and that's yeah. Again, I don't know, it was a conscious decision when I was starting to craft the idea of the book, but yeah, my time living all over the United States informed that story. These people I met, the different religious people, the different kinds of faith I experienced, and yeah, and just also just what the United States is, which is an massive country that is it's the same size as the European Union, basically, in landmass. But instead of being 27 different countries, it's these 50 states that are very similar in some ways and
Yeah.
completely like at odds with each other and others. It's a fascinating experience. And yeah.
Yeah. And then you've turned it all into this book. The story, it makes more sense now. Because it feels very lived in. We haven't talked much about the writing, which we should, but we're more ideas driven here. But yeah, we both found it to be a ripping page turner, fantastic travelogue.
Happy to hear
Love
that. Yeah.
the exploration of ideas. Like, yeah, it just kept us going. Like, what had to know what comes next, and it has a fantastic payoff. It's totally worth it. So with that, Joseph are you ready to move on to Can a True Atheist?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Nathan, it's been so
Great.
long. Do
Yeah.
you remember the rules? How does this work?
So we've got a series of questions. Can a true atheist do a certain thing? And you just need to respond yes or no, and then maybe a brief explanation. It's just tongue in cheek for the most part. So just as our kind of baseline question, can a true atheist believe in God?
No, no, absolutely not. It's fine if you like the idea of a God, if you like that sort of thing, but no, the just defining trait of an atheist is you don't believe in God. No,
Yeah.
no,
All
any
right. That
God.
was easy. Okay.
Yeah,
Can a true atheist vandalize a church?
sure. I wouldn't do it, and I don't feel the need as an atheist to commit crimes against people of faith or any of that. But yeah, I think I think atheism doesn't prescribe morality. You have to find your own morality. So yeah, I think you can be a true atheist and do that. I wouldn't do it.
Okay. All right. Okay. Building on that, after it's been, because this is something kind of touched on in the book, and we didn't talk much about it. The like sort of deconsecrated churches. The easy story is that, like, if you go to places like Montreal and you see former churches that have become libraries, it's fantastic. And they're becoming community centers. They serve another purpose. Um, is it okay to once these things have become sort of deconsecrated, to sort of like annihilate them, destroy the religious artifacts of it, if you know what I mean?
I think I don't know. I don't have a one answer to that or like my personal feeling on it. I think I imagine and I get into this a little bit in the book that a religious symbol is going to be painful to some people. It's going to be a reminder of whatever abuse they experienced or whatever, whether that's physical or mental or sexual. It's going to be a reminder of what they've lost. So in that sense, I absolutely can see us tearing them down and destroying them. And that's whether you're talking about churches or mosques or anything, but or also just other sorts of basic religious symbols in our life. And as Americans in America, there's constantly it's that classic thing of the fish in the water that doesn't realize they're in water. Like we don't.
Mm,
I
right.
live in Spain now, but like when you're in America, you don't always realize just how much you're bombarded by religious symbolism and stuff. So yeah, I can see a desire to destroy religious symbols and stuff if the society turned their back on it. But I wouldn't personally argue for it. I wouldn't say it's something we need to do. I see the value in, like you said, turning it into a community space, and they can
Mm.
still be a nice
Yeah.
place for people to meet up. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can
See,
a
these are easy,
oh
right?
yeah, yeah. Can a true atheist say "God bless you" when someone sneezes?
yes, I do. It's
Mm.
just a habit, and um, I think I think it's kind of like when people talk about taking back slurs and stuff like that. I think if
Mm.
we use these
Yeah, yeah.
phrases with the intention of knowing that we don't actually believe in a God, it just becomes a meaningless phrase. It just becomes a thing you say. Then yeah, like it's I'm expressing to you that I am aware of you, that you're in my vicinity and you sneeze, and I'm saying God bless you, but it doesn't mean anything religious or faithful. Yeah.
All right. Can a true atheist hate religion?
Yes, but yeah, yeah, many do. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
All right.
Um, can a true atheist get married in a church?
yeah. I think so. I wouldn't do it, and I think I guess probably depends on if they're an atheist that's just grew up an atheist, or if they're an atheist that grew up in a religious family or whatever. I think the latter would be more likely to not want to do it, whereas someone who grew up without faith would probably be like, sure, why not? So yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Can a true atheist pray?
Uh, I would say no. I guess maybe people have different definitions of what it means to pray, but for me, what I mean when I say the word prayer, I would say no, because then you're just talking to yourself with the idea that someone's listening, and that's silly. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I do think probably there are people who do it sort of I don't know, not subconsciously, but like do it out of force of habit or something, perhaps.
absolutely, yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Is it something that you guys noticed went away?
mm,
Like when
Yeah. Yeah, because I grew up, one of the things I was in my church was an intercessory prayer. And so I
Mhm.
would go and sit in this um, room like before a youth group on a Wednesday night for an hour and just pray over the youth group and blah, 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 blah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
exhausting. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
so yeah, prayer was a big part of my faith, like part of how I express my faith. So yeah, I think it took me a little bit of time to get used to just not falling into that habit easily and such.
Mm.
Wow.
All right. And the last question, can a true atheist feel sad that religion is declining?
Yeah, I if you see the value in the community aspect and you're not seeing a replacement for that, yeah, I can see the sadness in that. I think maybe it's a you see it as a bittersweet thing. Like you're happy that the harms of faith are going away, but the loss of that community is a sad thing. So yeah.
Mm, certainly. I'm sad about that loss, but I'm not sad about other losses of religion. Um, we are well, this has been a great talk, Joseph. We're sad to see you go. We will definitely have links to the book below. Is there anything you'd like to plug? Anywhere people can learn more about you?
Yeah, you can I have a website, 10cities10years.com, or just josephlyttleton.com. Both will take you to the same place. And then on all the social medias, I am 10 cities, 10 years. And that's with the numerals. So 10 cities, 10 years. And that's everywhere online.
Great.
So,
Yep. We'll put all those links in the description so people can check them out and make sure, yeah, people definitely should check out the book. It's a great book. There's a lot
Absolutely.
of yeah, like travelogue, philosophical social commentary, and then just a good kind of mystery, like where is Carlos? What is he doing? Is he
Yeah.
alive still? And so yeah, it's yeah, highly recommended.
Yeah, and it's deep and it scratches an itch. There's a lot of super interesting stuff. Joseph, thank you so much. This has been fantastic.
Thank you both for having me. I really enjoyed this. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, that was Joseph Littleton. It was really great talking with him, talking about his new book.
absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Um, what were some things that you took from it?
Well, without getting into spoilers,
Yeah,
I mean, one is we mentioned in the interview, like, okay, let's take our world and we're gonna add or we're gonna change one little thing, and let's see how that ripples out and changes everything. It's a fun high concept, and he does it really, really well. One thing we didn't mention, because I think it's kind of like it goes without saying for us, and he mentioned it offhandedly that, like, being atheist doesn't make you a good person. Doesn't make you moral, right? It doesn't imbue you with any special characteristics or insight. It just means that you're a person that, there's one less thing that you have or you have a different thing. And, I don't know, for me, that's become just a very lived phenomenon now. It's just a lived experience. It's how I see the world daily. Like, I don't think that being an atheist makes you better or worse than anyone else. I just don't ever feel that. And his book, I think, kind of communicates that very well without explicitly saying it. It's just sort of there's some right, like the characters who were atheists, they stay atheists. It doesn't impact their life in any way. They make good choices, bad choices. The people who become atheists, right? Like they they go through different stuff. They make different choices. They have different problems. And this is it's something that we as atheists have had to live with and navigate. Like, what does it mean? We don't have watching over us. We don't have someone making these choices for us. We don't have this eternal guidance of good and evil, of right and wrong, and we have to just kind of figure it out. And I think he depicts that very well without, kind of thinking about it. Just a background
yeah,
assumption.
yeah. I think, I mean, here's an interesting question, maybe. Like, would you nonetheless, like as an atheist, be sad if tomorrow everyone, like, if there were no more religious people, or I mean, I guess because, well, I guess I'd be more interested in the kind of the cultural traditions that would be lost because so much of like religion and culture are kind of tied up that, I appreciate the diversity in a way, even though I'm not obviously myself religious. I don't know, like it would in some way like make the world a little more bland, perhaps, if everyone thought the same about that particular question. I don't know. I'm not sure.
No, I
Mm.
know what you mean, and it's a good or it's one of the reasons that people try to keep, argue to keep religion going. But if you look at something like Christmas, which by the way isn't in the Bible, like it's not.
Right, right, right.
It doesn't come from Christianity. It's adapted from other things. Now it's a mostly secular tradition.
Yeah.
And if you look inside other secular traditions, you find that there is a incredible variety into how they're celebrated. Even Christmas, right? Like no two Christmas dinners are the same. Like where I live, like people put up their trees at different time. They decorate them in different ways. They get rid of them at different times. They have different lights. They do different. Everything's different. Like you have these incredible varieties in how people celebrate and do things. So that doesn't go away. It doesn't change it.
Yeah, I think it was like in the last question in the kind or not the last one, but one of the questions in kind of True Atheist about like saying God bless you. And I think he was saying, it's sort of like we reclaim that that phrase. I
Yeah.
mean, not that it's like, that's a
Yeah.
great thing to reclaim,
Right.
but I think the same about like Christmas and other kind of stuff like that. Why don't we just take the fun aspects of it and, I mean, it's already pretty much stripped away of a lot of religious elements anyway, the Christmas tree and Santa Claus and all that sort of stuff. I mean, the Christmas tree. And so, yeah, yeah. One other thing I was thinking about too is yesterday was the opening ceremony of the Olympics. And I was watching it.
You thought about booing JD Vance?
Well, that too, I guess.
Yeah.
But just about how, I guess if religion disappears, it doesn't mean we need to get rid of all kind of ritual and things like that, because I think it's still, I don't know what it is. There's something in our brains maybe that we want to have these symbols. Like, I mean, like, lighting the Olympic torch and like now the games are underway. And it's something very cool about just all the symbolism and ritual. Everyone, all the athletes coming with their flags. And it's like, none of it has anything to do with God or the supernatural, but it's still like, it's still quite powerful. And like all the kind of pageantry around it. And, like, it would be boring if it was just like some guy goes to a podium and says like the games are now open or something. Like
Right.
there needs to be,
Right. Yeah.
I think, I don't know what it is about like humans, the way we're wired. I mean, I think I don't know where I heard this idea about like the idea of like rituals as kind of helping to mark transitions and like thing like your birthday or when you graduate and you dress up in this little costume and you go through this ritual, but like at the start of the ritual and the end of the ritual, like you've become in a way like a different person. In the same way, like, I mean, obviously you're not really, but like there's some kind of tra or like ritual to mark this transition. The same way with the Olympics. And I mean, I think that's another thing that we can kind of, we don't need to get rid of that if religion goes away, like this sort of ritual.
No, I
Yeah.
mean, I often we see religion try to co-opt it. I mean, there's a case a couple of years ago where like a high school football coach making his team do prayers before and after
Yeah,
games.
right.
It's like, okay, well, what you're trying to do is insert religion into a secular tradition, a secular ceremony. But you like the ritual, you like the pomp, you like the ceremony.
There seems to be some, I don't know what it is about our brains, but yeah, I do in a way. I mean, I
You
guess
just
like, yeah,
don't want the Jesus-y parts of it.
no, no. Although, some of the dances and stuff they did, like I guess the one was based on like, Greek or not, or sorry, like I guess it would be like Roman mythology or whatever, and more kind of pagan gods, I suppose, and so on. But I don't know what it is about our brains, but we want to mark these kind of big events in a way with a sort of a ritual, even though it doesn't, there's not a rational reason to do it, I guess is the thing. It's like, when you graduate or something, you could just get your degree mailed to you in an envelope, and some people do that, but there's something about walking across the stage wearing this robe and getting dressed up and all this sort of stuff. I don't know what it is. It's
But
not
well, it's
it's
kind of
not
like,
rational.
yeah,
But
there is some like magic to it, right?
yes, yes,
Like the
yes.
thing is like marriage ceremonies do make people married. Like that's a thing that happens. You have a complete transformation, both like in this legal way, in this social way, in this personal way. Like you're now married. And how did that happen? You said words. That's weird, right? It's like it's like the queen knighting you
Yeah.
as she did several years ago and turned you into
Mm.
Sir Nathan, right? And it's like because she dubbed you Sir Nathan, right? That's
Yeah.
all that happened. She said it and it transferred your character. Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
But all of these are
Yeah.
secular, right? Like they're all
Yes.
secular.
Yes. I think there's something too about like ritual, like connecting with this idea of community that like doing a ritual, you're not a member of the community before, but then you do a ritual, now you are a member. Something's changed. And it's even though there's sort of, again, like there's no rational reason, they could just say, yeah, you're a member now. Like, if you go through like
Yeah.
all the
Did you check
different,
the box? Did you check the
yeah,
box online? Did you download
right,
the app?
right. But there's
Yeah.
something like, you wear something different or you have to perform some ceremony or something. And I mean, like, maybe humanist groups should adopt that. Like, if you become a member of the humanist group, you have to do some sort of silly ritual or something. I don't know, just as a way to like bind the community together. I don't know.
This is the piece that's missing. But lots of secular groups have this. Frats have it,
Yeah,
fraternities
frats.
and
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
sororities have
yeah,
that,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Not just hazing, they
Right.
have like rituals.
Yeah. I mean, ideally, it would be not like a kind of like humiliating kind of thing that you
Yeah.
need to endure or whatever.
Yeah, something that
Um,
builds people up, not
yeah,
social blackmail.
yeah. I guess I think that's kind of maybe the fear or worry some people have about the decline of religion is we lose all of this other stuff potentially, or we could, but it doesn't, we don't need to. I mean, we can keep all of this stuff, I guess, like,
Yeah. Yeah,
um,
we can. We got to find a way. I mean, part of it is like, to bring it back to Joseph's book, part of it is like for people who have faith, they really do have faith, right? And that loss of faith would be devastating. That's really tough. And it's not something that goes into our calculation because at least for me, like I don't, it's not something that I feel
yeah, no, I
like
don't either.
it's also something I've noticed in the past few years, probably through talking about this more, but like the Catholic guilt has abated. Like I don't worry about that much anymore. A lot of stuff has left me and I don't
Hmm.
miss it, you know?
Yeah. No, me too. I don't miss it
Right.
either.
Yeah. I mean, it's Catholicism is often treated like alcoholism, where like you're never not Catholic. You can be in recovery. You're in
Yeah.
recovery. You know, like you're getting over
Yeah.
it. You got a lot of, yeah, you know, you just
Yeah.
don't go back to church. It's going to start all over again. But you know, lately that burden has gotten really, really light for me lately. Like I don't miss it. There's no missing piece for me. Whereas a lot of what this book explores is how people fill that void.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And like we're talking about different things here like socialization and ritual and actions, activities, how community fills the void. And it is, I think it's important to know at this point, especially because it's beyond atheism, like it might not be about creating a new group, right? There are things that already exist. There are lots of secular institutions that provide for a sense of community, whether it's your sports fandom, which God, man, that's gets intense. Keep the faith. This is our year. Wait until next year, right? And you dress up ridiculously. By the
Yeah.
way, I have a Bruins knit cap. I have a Bruins scarf. I have a Bruins like sweater, pullover. I have Bruins socks. I put on the silly costume all the time. Like, and look where it gets me. Nowhere.
Right. Well, Boston's, I mean, they've had a pretty decent run over the
Oh
last
yeah.
couple decades, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
But anyway, the
No,
thing is
yeah.
like there are all these sort of secular institutions that do this.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it might be the idea of expanding one. And if we look backwards, you know, like the other thing with thinking about a book about like, okay, let's just remove faith from the world. How many other times has something like that been removed from the world? You know, like getting rid of the idea that it's, you know, the humors control the body. How much were we messed up as a society because we're not guided by our humors anymore and we don't use like to treat diseases. It's not right. Like it's not gone. We're not really guided. Even people who believe in astrology don't build their life around it in the way that being evangelical dictates how you behave. Right.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I guess, I mean, I guess one thing with the book is obviously this is like a sudden transition that people go to bed believing, then they wake up the next day, they're not believing anymore. I mean, obviously that's, that's not how it really happens. Like, these kind of transitions don't really happen that way. It's, I mean, I don't know, like I think about like belief in like evolution. This was not, I think it was a fairly dramatic transformation, but I mean, like when Darwin's work comes out, people readily adapt to it fairly quickly, but I think there's also like, a lot of transition there as well.
Right. Yeah.
It's not a, there's not a switch that's flipped or something.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Good point.
I guess there could be an example of like, these kind of cults or new religious movements who say like the world is going to end on this particular day, and then the world doesn't end, and then they're thrown into chaos. In that case, it really is a sudden thing that would affect everyone in the community because now it's like either prophecy was wrong or like actually it's all made up or or they calculated it wrong or whatever. I don't know. I mean, that's
Yeah.
one thing
Go
where
tell
it's
that to the Seventh-day Adventists. I mean,
right. Well,
yeah.
they're always like, is it
Their
like
prophecy was always
it's
wrong,
like
and yet they're
they
still a
always
church.
keep pushing it a
Yeah.
few years into the
Yeah.
future or whatever. I
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah. I mean, I guess like kind of a sudden, trying to think of other examples of like a kind of a sudden thing that hits a whole community and everyone has to reckon with it. I don't know.
An exogenous shock,
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
in
Yeah.
terms of changing their worldview.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
probably
I don't know.
there are examples, but yeah.
But we don't have that. Well, not in the way it's depicted in the book, right? This
No,
is,
no, that's right. It's a, yeah,
and
it's,
it
yeah.
may be sort of like a generational issue moving forward, right? We're like, how do you deal with this? The fact that it's majority non-religious.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
seem to be heading that way.
Yes. Yeah. In some
Yeah,
countries it is the case already.
yeah. And
I
what does
guess,
that mean?
yeah. One other point about community too is like the community needs to be small enough and like built around something tangible to make it a community. Otherwise, what is binding you as a community if and I think that's maybe where some humanist groups kind of fall apart if it's just like just be a good person, that could be the basis of our community. I mean, that's maybe like it's too broad to actually like
Right.
bind people together.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm not sure what the answer is. I mean, again, going back to the Olympics, like nation could be a community, like that could be one answer. That's not totally satisfying, I guess, but
Yeah. Nation state. That's, yeah. That there's nothing that could go wrong with that, is
no,
there?
no.
No,
No.
no way that could backfire. But
No.
the thing is, like, another thing when you talk about these things, like the nation as a concept had to be invented and it had to be deployed and it had to be made. Like, I think there were regional dialects in England until the 20th century, right? Like the Midlands, people spoke different languages. In France, they had to go around and tear down all the city walls and make them
Mm.
French and
Yes, yes.
centralize everything and create this identity. I mean, that's one way to do it. I think we prefer, in the backs of our atheist minds, is that like this is something that's going to be decentralized and liberatory and not top down. It's going to be something where it allows for free association rather than this in-group dynamic, which is imposed upon you, where you can't speak to people. Like Joseph said, like it's horrible. You lose your faith, and then people exclude you from the religious group. That's a horrible, horrible thing to do. That's terrible for someone who just happens to believe the truth and doesn't lie about it, someone who's honest. That's, we need to be in a place where we're free to recognize reality. Also, it comes up these days, you don't have a right to obey. If someone is lying to you or someone is telling you to do terrible things, you don't have the right to obey. And very often churches are mobilized, religion is mobilized to get people to do bad things. It's very nice, right? We all talk, but we can definitely see this. Oh, if you lose faith, if it weren't for God, people would be raping and killing and stealing and plundering and all that stuff. But how much raping and killing and murder and plunder do they do because they're told it's okay
Yeah,
by God,
that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
right? And the patriarch of Eastern Orthodoxy in Russia came out and said, yeah, like if you go to the front lines and you kill people, you'll go to heaven. Well,
Mm,
like this
yeah.
isn't this isn't a
Hmm.
site of resistance to immorality. It's a site of encouraging immorality.
Hmm. Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, this atheist argument has been made forever. The thing is, what's going to replace it? We don't know. But like you said, like nations are relatively new. Unions are
Yeah, yeah.
relatively new.
Yes, yes.
Like, and the things that are kind of left behind, like, okay, I don't know. My wife's not in a coven right now. And that we don't have pagan group. We're not, I don't know, we don't have knitting parties. We don't have like home spinning with our little wheel, making yarn out of wool. We don't do that anymore. Why did we lose that? Why don't men go have coachman clubs anymore where they go and talk about their horses? Like these things, they come and go. And we don't, the thing is that when we talk about the loss of religion, we're talking about it because we have it now. Nobody laments the things that are gone that we don't miss.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's right.
It's just the nature of it. You don't miss the things you don't have. So what I'm saying, Nathan, is I'm not worried about it. And Joseph has kind of convinced me that like the groups that we need for the future to provide community are already here. Maybe there's an aspect of leadership that is missing, which is, something that I don't know, you put one foot in front of the other and see, you put yourself out there. So if you're listening and you want to be a leader, you want to lead a great cult or a not a cult, wink, wink. No, we're not a cult group of atheists. You just write a pamphlet, print
Yeah,
out a
yeah,
t-shirt. It's really easy.
yeah. Or yeah, check out Joseph's book. Not that it's
Yeah,
a
definitely.
not that it's a how-to guide.
No, no. No, and we didn't talk about the atheist terrorists at all,
Oh yeah, that's right.
which
Yeah.
is weird since we're atheist terrorists, I think.
Yeah. No, there's a lot.
So, yeah,
There's a
there's
lot
a
to
lot we
to
left
the
out.
book that we didn't get
We
to.
didn't
But
get
yeah,
to. No, there's too much to talk about. It got us thinking too much and talking too much. So check out the book. Nathan, anything else people should be checking out?
probably, but I can't think of anything.
If there's
Yeah.
anything people should check out, there'll be links below. I'm just going to continue to be a hermit. This is my only outlet to the world. I haven't talked to anyone in
Yeah.
months,
Yeah.
Nathan. So
Yeah.
it's good to see you again.
Yeah, you too. Yeah.
Yeah. And
All right.
otherwise, yeah, big ups to our patrons, Atheists out in California,
Yes.
LA,
Yeah, Atheist United. Yeah.
Atheists United. Keep fighting the good fight. We need you guys out there. Anybody listening, join up, throw them some money. And yeah, that's it. Bye-bye.